This is Business Edge on News Central. I'm Tolulope Adeleru-Balogun. Our headline story: Kenya Airways survival strategies. Now, the aviation industry has had it rough since the coronavirus pandemic started. In Africa, some airlines were already in trouble, reporting losses earlier than the pandemic. And now the survival strategies are in overdrive. Kenya Airways' ongoing plan to stay in the air is our focus today. Welcome. This is Business Edge. According to the International Air Transport Association, IATA, its initial forecast of 50% of pre-crisis passenger traffic levels in 2021 has a downside risk as governments respond to new COVID-19 variants. The association further says global passenger traffic fell 66% and cargo demand fell by 10.6% in full year 2020. This report barely scratches the surface in relation to the woes of the aviation sector in Africa. Debt, high costs of operations and taxes are some of the heavy burdens trying to keep Kenya Airways grounded. The current situation has led to management taking some desperate measures, first of which is reducing overhead costs, which started in 2020. Then the carrier laid off 182 pilots, more than 400 cabin crew, as plans were underway to nationalize the airline. Its shares are currently suspended from trading at the Nairobi Securities Exchange. The earnings of contract workers got slashed by 30% for workers with monthly earnings exceeding 45,000 shillings. That's about $409. And that takes effect this month and will run for 6 to 12 months. And now Kenya Airways has moved to reduce its staff numbers by 220 from the start of the year in a voluntary and early retirement exercise undertaken to cut down costs. CEO Alan Kilavuka says they are aiming to reduce staff costs by 35% this year and are in talks with some of their aircraft lessors to reduce payments on its fleet by up to 50% until the aviation industry recovers from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Kenya Airways joined Ethiopian Airlines in moving more cargo across the region. The carrier has increased its haulage capacity. This is being explored as a means of earning more income to balance the reduced human flights. The airline has so far converted 2 of its passenger carriers into cargo freighters at the cost of 30 million Kenyan shillings each, with a view of increasing its cargo capacity by 10%. However, according to the CEO, the repurposed aircrafts will be converted back to passenger planes once numbers improve. Now, joining me on Business Edge is Nasir Afolabi Agbalaya. He's the head of our business desk here. We'll get straight into the conversation. Nasir, thank you so much for joining me.
Great to be here.
So first question, we're seeing some voluntary and early retirements. We're seeing some layoffs, and unfortunately, we're seeing severance packages. How did the airline get the workers to agree to any of this?
Well, first, everybody's aware of what is happening right now, that literally every company, every thriving institution has been hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. So they really watch less of an argument coming from the workers. And the unions were involved in the negotiation from the get-go. So with that, they were able to, agree on, a fair wage package for those who agreed to leave, those who didn't want to take the massive pay cuts, which is happening across board.
Yeah.
So they opted out. Okay, fine, they could get other employment or they could do other things and still use what they are leaving Kenyan Airways with to have a relatively comfort living.
Okay, so given the financial state of the airline, are the severance packages fair? Do we think they're fair and reasonable given where the company is right now?
Well, to be sincere, the company cannot pay exactly what it should pay, but something equal or near that is what has been agreed upon. Incidentally, they haven't announced exactly what the amount will turn out to be. But from the feelers we're getting is that it's something which everyone agreed to. The workers, the union, the company. So with this, there won't be any backlash because it is still expected that Kenyan Airways could still get some investors down the line that will, inject some more funds to it. That may not happen this year. Yeah. We never can tell. It could be early next year that somebody could pick up the bill.
Looking at that report from the International Air Transport Association, we know overall across the world, every single airline was hit, not just Kenya Airways, not just Ethiopian Airlines as well. And we also know that it's going to be difficult. So other reports have said that countries that are dependent on tourism are going to be hardest hit in terms of recovery. So this report, is it detailing any way out? Because while we all know what the problems are, is anyone helping us point to solutions, not just internally as nations, but also externally as an industry for aviation?
Well, the basic solution is assistance, investment. I didn't want to use that word, but that is it. But that is bailout. But unfortunately, most countries that have a private airline cannot do that.
Yes,
Rwanda is one of the few exceptions. They, from the word go, I think Senegal also, and a few other ones, yes, they came out and put their money where their mouth is. Incidentally, Nigeria and South Africa, I mean, since 2020, they just did theirs this year, I mean, late last year to early this year. But others have not been able to. Particularly Kenya has not been able to do this. Kenyan Airways needs over $60 million. There's no way Kenya can afford that right now.
So even if it's $60 million, so before we get to that amount, so
more than $60 million.
More than, but there has to be something. So as we talked about, the International Air Transport Association has repeatedly called for bailouts for the aviation sector. Now, they said that African airlines could lose $6 billion in passenger revenue in 2020 after the pandemic grounded much of the global aviation industry. So as Nasir said, in Africa, Rwanda, Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, and Burkina Faso have also worked to make sure that they've put some kind of help, assistance to their airlines. And that has amounted to about $311 million in direct financial support to air transport in 2020. Towards the end of the year, we saw South Africa and Nigeria finally finalizing that support as well. As you're saying now, Kenya Airlines needs how much? 60?
Over 60, around $65 million.
So yes, even if they can't get everything, because as you said, particularly with many of the African countries, they're struggling in every single sector. And economies were also, maybe not struggling, but they were also finding it difficult to find their feet even before the pandemic. Even if they can't get the 60 million, what can Kenya Airways get? Because we've had conversations about nationalization as well.
Definitely. Now, that is what the Kenyan government is trying to do now. They even passed a law last year to make this a reality. They want to have a holding company literally following what Ethiopia did. But Ethiopian Airline, when it started, when it came to Nigeria to learn from Nigerian Airways of old, they had this framework of how their government was that a holding company. The Ethiopian Airline was part of that holding company. Now, the haulage was part of it. The aircraft handling, all those things were separate units under one company. So it had less cost. That's augmented things for Ethiopian Airlines, and they were able to grow gradually across the continent and globally. So the formula worked perfectly for them. So now Kenya wants to borrow that formula and use it also in Kenya. Now, they were thriving well. Well, one of the things that hit them hard was the growth projection. Kenya was growing well, but they borrowed more than they could chew. They bought more, instead of a normal practice where people actually lease airlines, they actually bought airlines and were going to new routes. But as the pandemic hit, traveling wasn't as it should be because of terrorism and some other vices. So that reduced the number of passengers that they were bringing in. And of course, operation costs would still be there. They still need to pay landing fee. They still need to maintain all these aircraft and definitely pay all the pilots. And the pilot fee is not something that is in any way cheap. So all this cost was more than what they were making. That is why their problem started. Now, incidentally, before last year, they were toying with the haulage. But from last year up to now, they have gone wholly into that. Okay,
let's pause on the haulage because I do have a question about that. So what you're telling me is that they have strategy for what they want to do. So let's talk about that. In August, Kenya Airways, that's August 2020, said that it had laid off about 650 workers. And this was a month after announcing plans for an unspecified number of layoffs, cuts to its network, the network that Nasir is talking about, and offloading of some of its assets. At the time, it forecast a fall in 2020 revenues of between 60 billion and 70 billion shillings, as demand for the rest of the year was expected to be less than half of 2019. So government has a plan of action. Is it a reasonable, feasible plan of action, or is this a situation where this is something that has brought national pride? This is something that we've had for so long and we don't want people to think we're not doing anything. Let's make a statement and then let's find out what we can do. Is there a feasible, sensible, realistic plan of action, or is it a political statement?
It is all.
Everything together?
Entirely. No, first, it is a matter of pride for Kenya, because this is one of the oldest airlines. It started in, I think, in the late 40s as an East African Airways. So it is something which is a sense of pride for Kenya as one of the pioneering airlines on the continent. So the need to keep it flying is essential. Now, about the feasibility of it, yes, the plan can work if the politics is lesser and it is more about the business of ensuring that this airline stays airworthy. Now, how would this be done? The number of flight routes needs to be only those that are economically viable and
that have the requisite passengers.
Exactly. It isn't just about, oh, fine, because we have been flying to Arusha, we need to go to Arusha every time. If Arusha is not paid, it doesn't make sense. It has to be an economic decision that, look, this flight can pay for itself.
Okay.
If it can't pay for itself, there is no point in going there. They have to be business-minded about it. When that is done, yes, Kenyan Airways will keep flying and gradually it will pay off its debt. Because right now, they are being very, very pragmatic. They have reduced overhead costs so that the debts would not choke them. And I believe the CEO also mentioned something about talking to these holders.
Pause. You want to get ahead of me in my conversation. So we're going to take a quick break. And as Nasir said, the CEO did mention that the airline was looking to talk to its lessors. Will they be willing to listen? We also have NC4 to watch coming your way, and the very first time on Business Edge. I want to say Breakfast Central, doing too many things. But also the very first time on Business Edge. And if you have not heard, CBN has been very active in Nigeria. We'll tell you all about it with the fuss. This is Business Edge. We'll take a quick time out and be right back.
The government of the day must realize that if they want to take full advantage of the endowment that Africa has, infrastructure is key. And I share a philosophy that what you can do today, don't wait till tomorrow. So I would say, don't procrastinate, don't delay, because investors are not going to be waiting endlessly for you. I mean, they have funds, they want to invest it. They want you to take a decision. If you don't, they'll take the investment elsewhere. And that's one thing that will be unfortunate. So in order for us to be able to attract and retain, agreements with investors who want to help us improve our agriculture, they should take quick decisions.
This is Business Edge on News Central. We're continuing the conversation on Kenya Airways and their survival strategy. So one point we're getting into right before the break, this Chief Executive Officer, Alan Kilavuka, has mentioned that the airline is looking to negotiate with its lessors for reduced payments. So who will he be talking to, and what is the likelihood of them agreeing to this? Nasir, who is he talking about, and will they be ready and willing to agree to reduce renegotiated terms?
Well, But agreeing to it, we do not know. But everybody is hoping that that will be the result.
But if they don't agree, they don't have money to pay. So I can't pay. Do you want to renegotiate and know that I'll be paying you something small, or just I can't pay you?
Exactly. So that is why everybody is hopeful. Because the reality is most people many companies are even going out of business.
Yeah.
So if somebody is not willing to pay, logic prefers that you will agree, fine, okay, we'll give you this waiver, fine, for this period of time, pay this, and later on we'll return back to. Let's remember, these individuals, these lessors, they could be individuals, it could be corporations, or even banks.
Yeah.
They are those that hold the lease agreement to some of the aircrafts that they have
A lot
bought.
of the assets.
Many of their assets, if not all the assets. Although, do you know that, yes, Kenyan Airways bought some outright, and they had to return a few back also.
Wow.
It's the reality.
Which is
it's
fine.
It's about money.
We all know, but if I'm not in business, there's no way I can make the money to pay you your money.
Which is why he's going to them. Fine. Gentlemen, this is where we are right now. We cannot pay you this amount. This is the amount we can pay you about for this period. So when we are making profit again, or when we are balanced again, yes, we can go back to the old agreement. Everybody expects that this shouldn't be a problem.
I would expect so as well, because we keep re-emphasizing the fact that if they're not making money, you're not going to be able to claim your debt. And some of these people, if you claim the debt of an airline or airplane, what do you actually want to do with it?
It happened not too long ago where many banks that borrowed Kenyan Airways, when they found out, oh, wow, you guys are making so much loss, all right, we will convert these debts into shares. Everybody went home happy.
It's something that can happen again. All right, so in August, we also know that, okay, we've talked about that earlier, which is, of course, Kenya Airways laying off about 650 staff, and that was last year. So earlier, we've mentioned, or rather Nasir mentioned, who was getting ahead of me, that Kenya Airways has also been taking up more cargo flights. And that is, of course, something also that we've seen happen with Ethiopia Airlines. But they've been taking up more cargo flights, and we talked about the fact that 30 million shillings to convert one of these aircraft to a cargo plane, and the CEO said they can be converted back, costing probably another 30 million thereabouts. But anyway,
it might even be more by then, because they are not the only one who is doing this.
I'm trying to wrap my head around the fact, does that make financial sense? Spending money 2 times to convert an airplane,
in this
how
regard,
many times?
It does, because for them to stay in business, they need to be able to move more cargo. Look at it this way, and many people are buying things from home. That the e-commerce ecosystem is thriving more than ever before.
Yeah.
Less people are going outside. Exactly. If you don't need to be outside, you shouldn't be outside. So just stay at home on your phone, your tablet, laptop. You can buy literally anything.
So if we can't move people, let's move things.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Is this really helping to balance Kenya Airways' balance sheets, or at least helping to bring in some money and keep it at least head above water?
The last part. Because as it is right now, they just need to survive and weather the storm. It's not about you making profit at the immediate, right now, but be viable, stay in business. And that is what Alan Kilavuka is doing now, ensuring that the airline is still flying. So with this, with the movement of cargo, and you remember sometime last week, the Flower Association complained that they don't have enough capacity. This is prime opportunity for Kenyan Airways.
Yeah.
Move the flowers around. Hey, next weekend is Valentine.
Make some money.
So with this, you can make more money.
Okay.
Now, European airspace is still open to them, despite the fact that they have ended their agreement with the KLM Air France, but they can still go there at least till June this year. So this will give them time to earn the needed hard currency. They need it, and they will definitely go there and push as many cargoes as possible to these places, and hey, they will be much better for it. So
very quickly before we wrap up, how long do you think this haulage capacity, haulage line of action, sort of detour, how long do you think it will last?
Well, for the next 2 years, they still have a fighting chance of making as much from it as possible. 2 years, because other airlines also are thinking of this. Even the small carriers are also looking at this. But because they have bigger planes that they can convert to carrying both passengers and cargo, they have an advantage over these ones. So before those ones can even say lease big planes, they have made some meaningful profit in the long run. at least
All
for
right.
the next 2 years.
Well, we'll be watching to see how things play out for Kenya Airways. We also spoke about the fact that nationalization seems to be on the horizon as well. And it's not the only airline on the continent that's been hit hard, but it is one that has changed a bit of its business plan to sort of meet with how things are playing out now. Thank you so much, Nasir Afolabi Agbalaya, for joining me. All right, so as I promised, if you've been following business news in Nigeria, you would have heard that over the weekend, the Central Bank of Nigeria reminded, not announced, but actually reminded Nigerian banks that they are prohibited from dealing in cryptocurrency or facilitating payment of cryptocurrencies. This has generated a lot of conversation. So what is the fuss all about? And we've talked about cryptocurrency a few times right here on Business Edge. So let's check in with our very own Felicity Ezuwike as she tells us more with the fuss.
Cryptocurrency in Nigeria. So on Friday, the 5th of February, the Central Bank of Nigeria released a statement prohibiting financial institutions in the country from dealing in cryptocurrencies or facilitating payments for cryptocurrency exchange. It is the news of the weekend. So what is the fuss about? The new directive orders all financial institutions to identify and close the accounts of all persons and entities transacting in or operating cryptocurrency exchange within their systems. Failure to do so would attract severe regulatory sanctions on defaulting institutions. We spoke to a policy expert. Here is what he has to say.
It simply makes it impossible for you to move your physical cash sitting at a bank into cryptocurrency using the financial services of your bank. It's simply saying you have to go outside of Nigeria if you want to trade cryptocurrency. Now you see the flaw in that argument is this. You have simply given an outlet for cash that would have been resident in the Nigerian bank, transactions that Nigerian banks should have been making a fee on, to now happen from Ghana, for example, to now happen from a friend's account in the UK, for example.
Until late last year, cryptocurrency was relatively unpopular in Nigeria. More people got to know about it during the EndSARS protests when it became an alternative source of fundraising for the protests after the government, of course, blocked the regular bank accounts that were being used to raise funds. When that happened, many people then realized that it is possible to move money around without being at the mercy of the government. Also, there has been a worldwide increase in the demand for cryptocurrencies, leading to impressive profits for early investors. There has been increased adoption in different parts of the world, increasing the potential of cryptocurrencies as the next big thing. It has even been compared to the internet in terms of the level of revolution it could bring. Now, why is Nigeria choosing to make it difficult for her citizens to be part of this? The Nigerian government has not given a clear reason for this directive, and citizens are vocal about their displeasure.
So those companies do not need any physical residence in Nigeria, so to speak, to operate. They can operate from anywhere, provided there is a gateway for them to provide the services that they provide. So essentially, instead of those businesses being Nigerian businesses operating in this space, they are just going to have physical addresses elsewhere.
What happens next? Do share your thoughts with us using the hashtag #NCTheFuss and let us know other issues you would like to talk about on the show.
And that was the fuss. And of course, use the hashtag. Let us know what you think about the CBN's new or updated regulation. They released a 5-page press release explaining themselves. We'll be wrapping up with NC4 to watch, and let's get straight to it quickly. Now, the World Bank has approved $500 million to support Nigeria in strengthening its electricity distribution sector. Eskom has announced suspension of load shedding across South Africa from 8 a.m. on Sunday morning due to the recovery of generation capacity. Morocco's Directorate of External Treasury and Finance has announced that the country's electricity production decreased by 4.1% at the end of 2020. And finally, for you on NC4 to watch, looming food shortages have led Somalia to declare a state of emergency. And that's it on this episode of Business Edge. Don't forget to follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. Head to our website, download our app, and of course, watch us on Star Times channel 274. Until next time, I'm Tolulope Adeleru-Balogun. Do have a pleasant day.